We will pick our teams for the game. We know that Alisson Becker will be in goal. I'm going to presume, Gorsty, that James Milner will be at right back. Is there an argument for anybody else there, do you think? And how else would you line up with the rest of that back four?
No, I don't think so. Nico Williams is back in training, isn't he? Joe Gomez came on for Milner and right back, but I'd be a little bit worried if either of those were starting on Sunday. I think Klopp was very reluctant not to give that one away straight away and let Guardiola have that one. Milner starting, but you'd be hard pushed to think the Klopp's going to spring a surprise with a Nico Williams or a Joe Gomez, wouldn't you? Given that Milner's performed so well so far against Zaha and Diaz, so Milner starting at right back.
And the rest of your back four, does that pick itself, do you think, in terms of Matip, Van Dijk and Robertson?
Yeah, I think so. It's great that Liverpool have got options now, isn't it? If you were to say, for example, that you're going to bring Gomez in for Matip, you wouldn't really blink. If you were to say that Tsimikas can come in for Robertson, okay, you might still think Robertson is the main man there, and he is, but Tsimikas has proven this season that he can do a passable impression. So, it's nice just to have those options, but I do still think it will be an unchanged back five on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, nice little bit of momentum to lead into that. I thought Robertson was pretty good, actually, midweek. Theo, are you in agreement with the back four?
Yeah, I think so. It'd be very harsh to take James Milner out of this team. And it's one where maybe 2-3 years ago, it was the sort of game where Klopp would put Joe Gomez at right back. But that was when Liverpool were challengers. Now they're more than challengers. Now they've got those trophies to their name. Now they've got that faith. They're not trying to catch up with Manchester City. You can have faith in what you're doing without having to go slightly more defensive. And James Milner, like I said earlier, always wants to prove a point against Man City. So I think he keeps that spot. There's that slight doubt of Van Dijk and Matip playing 3 games in a week. But Matip has got an international break off at the end of it. And Van Dijk is going to get back to full steam at some point. Maybe this will be that sign that those cobwebs are definitely off. And now Virgil van Dijk is fully back. And Robertson, we know what he's capable of. He's not had as good a start to the season as he'd have liked, but it was more promising from him in midweek. So I'd go along with the same back four. As Gorsty said, you wouldn't have any fears if it was Tsimikas or if it was Gomez at centre-back or anything like this. But stick with the tried and trusted. They might have shipped 3 against Brentford, but you can't see them having as bad an off day against Man City as they did against Brentford. Even if they still ship 3, that would just be a quality on show, won't it? A sign of the good game.
In terms of the midfield, then, Jurgen Klopp did suggest a possible formation change earlier on. I'm not quite sure how likely that might be, but I'm going to go with Curtis Jones in there with Fabinho and Jordan Henderson. And to be honest, I'd be surprised, Gorsty, if that wasn't what Klopp went with ultimately.
Yeah, I think so. He was teasing a bit of a formation switch, wasn't he? And if you think back to that game of the Etihad in November last year, he went 4-2-3-1, didn't he? And played all 4 of his main attackers, which I think would have caught Guardiola off guard quite a lot. And Liverpool started well that day. They had a few chances. Obviously went 1-0 up with the penalty. But I just can't see it on Sunday. I do think he will keep with the 3 in the midfield. And to be fair, you can't take Jones out. You probably can't anyway because the options are so thin on the ground. But after a performance like that, if you can't keep your place, then it's incredibly harsh. So yeah, Fabinho, Henderson, keeping it solid, and then Jones left to roam, I think.
I suppose the only other option, Theo, would be possibly Naby Keita. He didn't play midweek, but he is back from injury now. But would seem a bit of a risk to throw him in instead of Curtis Jones after what happened on Tuesday.
Yeah, you're not taking out your captain and you're not taking out Fabinho. Curtis Jones is in form, so you let him keep the place. The same as when Harvey Elliott was in form, you let him keep the place. Granted, there was that formation change hints, but if you look at the midfield from that day, Fabinho was out injured, wasn't he? So it was Wijnaldum and Henderson as the 2, and on the bench it would have been Milner and Keita, Jones. So that was a lack of options. Granted, it's a change in defence that even prompted this hint, but when you've got Fabinho there, you play 3, don't you? Like, you trust him to look after it all on his own, and then Henderson and probably Jones were going to be the ones unleashed further forward. Curtis Jones can sure hit a ball. It'd be nice if he can pull out Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain-esque strike against City, wouldn't it, in front of the cup?
Yeah, it absolutely would. And I think that the front three is an interesting one as well, Ghosty. There's probably one certainty in terms of Mohamed Salah. In terms of the other two spots, I'd be tempted to go with Firmino and Jota and maybe take Sadio Mane out. But Mane does, of course, have a pretty decent record against Manchester City.
Yeah, I wouldn't be leaving Mane out. The issue is Firmino and Jota, as it probably is going to be most weeks now, isn't it? Don't know. Firmino looks sharp when he come on. He obviously took us 2 goals quite well. That would have done wonders for his confidence, I think. So yeah, I think it might be time for Jota to have a little bit of a rest, and if needed, he's in reserve because not a bad sub to have if you need an attacker coming on, is it? So yeah, I'll go with Firmino and Mane.
Yeah, Jota probably the most effective off the bench. Theo, does that play into your thinking, or do you want him from the start in this one?
No, I'd go along with the traditional front three. For me, Firmino is still first choice. It's just because of injuries, perhaps, and coming back late from the Copa America that he hasn't had his place so far this season. But he looked sharp in pre-season. He was sharp on the opening day against Norwich. Got that injury at the wrong time, but then he's just picked up against Porto. He's good for these sorts of games against City. It's when he comes up to the occasion, isn't it? He loves playing in front of that Anfield crowd with the atmosphere. He's a big man for the big occasions, and it's one where you can trust him to get the job done. And we've had these doubts about his goal-scoring record before, but if he's got, 3 already this season, and he's been limited to mainly substitute roles, it might suggest he's got that hunger back in front of goal. And with Jota, yeah, he's not been at his best the last couple of games. He probably should have scored in midweek. He was a little bit wasteful, and he's had a couple of games like that. He is does make more of an impact off the bench, and that's been what Liverpool have perhaps lacked against Man City in the past. They've come out the traps flying, they've absolutely stormed it for the first 35 minutes, quieting down going into half-time, but then they haven't had that body to throw on to give it that final kick, that killer punch in the final 20-30 minutes, and that's where Jota could be really useful here. If you've had your traditional front three tiring out the City defence, and then you're throwing him on knowing, he's going to win any header, because he always finds a way of getting on the end of stuff in the box, and it may give him point to prove as well. We can't take it for granted that he's first choice in this Liverpool team anymore. So yeah, back to the tried and trusted. They've done it against City before, or let them do it again. It's the same as they did against Porto. Granted, they weren't together. All of them scored against Porto, haven't always done it. It'll be the same against City if we're lucky.
Yeah, plenty of decisions to be made then for Jurgen Klopp, and we'll see which one of us, if any of us, has got that team right on Sunday. Just before we go, we'll do our usual match predictions. I'm going to go, I think, for a 2-1 Liverpool win. I do fancy the Anfield crowd to help the Reds over the line, and I'm pretty sure Mohamed Salah will be on the score sheet again. Ghosty, what do you reckon the scoreline might be?
Liverpool have been in great form, haven't they? Scoring loads. 20 goals across September. Yeah, I'll go with the 2-1.
Theo, how do you reckon?
Before we started recording, I was going to say 1-1, but I think you've got me positive now, feeling positive and got confidence in him again. So I think I'd go for a 2-1 as well. But that first goal is going to be huge. That will decide whether it's a game where Liverpool can go and be at their very best, or if it's going to be a nitty-gritty draw.
Yes, pumped up after the podcast. That's what we like to see. We'll have all of the reaction to the game, of course, across the EchoLiverpool.com and the Blood Red channel. But from myself, Matt Addison, Paul Gorst and Theo Squires, it's goodbye for now.